What it do, YouTube? I'm David Sexton, and this is Sexton EDT. Today, I'm going to walk you through a cost comparison between the iPad Pro and iPad Mini M1 MacBook Air combination that I've been using recently, and then I'm going to let you know which is the better deal. Spoiler alert, I've mentioned in a couple of my previous videos which system I prefer, and there are no changes there. I am still singing the praises of the 1-2 punch combination of the iPad Mini and the M1 MacBook Air. But what I'm going to do here is a quick cost breakdown on why it's a better way to go, not only practically, but also financially. Functionally, it would seem to make more sense, all things being equal, to have two separate dedicated devices as opposed to trying to fit multiple feet into one shoe, as it were. And if you've watched any of my other videos, I've made no secret that the iPad Pro 12.9 was my favorite device up until recently. Recently being when the iPad Mini was released, which I was super excited to get my hands on to see if it was going to be able to do what it has ultimately been able to do, and that's not make me miss my iPad Pro. It's hard to believe that such a small device and a reduction in size and power could not only go unnoticed, but actually be preferred. And it's due in large part to the accompaniment of the M1 MacBook that I am also now carrying around. The two just seem to go together like cheese and crackers, cake and ice cream, or Jobs and Wozniak. At first, you might be like, well, yeah, obviously 2 is better than 1, but that's going to come with a heavier price tag, right? What if I told you that it didn't? Granted, the price is going to be heavy no matter how we weigh it, but when you break down comparative costs like we're about to do in this video, the heaviness is pretty much equal. But before we do the cost breakdown, let's take a look at what I was using with my iPad Pro that I have now been able to also replace by using the M1 MacBook Air and my iPad Mini. Obviously, I was using the iPad Pro, but in order to use it as a laptop replacement like I had to use the smart keyboard case, which is very well designed, but just wasn't always the most conducive to being able to use it as both a laptop and a tablet. And then also this thing just being so large, it wasn't always the best or easiest to use as an e-reader. So for that purpose, I was also carrying around a Kindle. Then, also writing on this thing is great, especially when I had like paper-like screen protectors on it. But again, it's so large, didn't always have it with me. Sometimes it was awkward to be able to take notes on that. So I was carrying notebooks, and then I also had a journal and a planner that I would carry around with me. Granted, you can do all of those things on this guy, but it's not always as convenient. And again, being so large, I didn't always have it with me or wanted to take it out in certain situations. So I always had those along with me. So I had to end up carrying all that into my daily carry. In contrast, however, the Mini has been able to replace the planner and the journal and the notebook and the e-reader because it's already similarly sized to those things, and in fact is thinner than most of them. I mean, it's just about the size of a medium moleskin, but way thinner and essentially with infinite number of pages. That was my most excited feature, to be honest with you, when I saw it. I immediately knew it was going to be the perfect everyday carry notebook because it hits that sweet spot for journaling and jotting and planning, and also for e-reading. Being such a great size, it's easy to have on me. In fact, I almost never don't have it on me, and I can easily carry it to places that I wasn't taking the iPad Pro. And it should go without saying, any device that you have on you is better than the one you don't. Really, to be honest, the only category that the Mini doesn't beat the Pro, in my opinion, is in the use case of a laptop replacement. And as previously stated, I no longer need my Mini to do that because I have the M1 MacBook Air. And no matter how good the iPad Pro is at replacing a laptop, it'll never be as good as an actual laptop. So, in my opinion, the Pro, being as great as it is still not as good a tablet as the Mini or as good a laptop as the M1 MacBook Air. One last thing to note before we compare the cost, though, is multitasking. Multitasking is not as good on the Mini as it is on the Pro with the smaller screen real estate. But multitasking is more intuitive when using two devices. So, whereas you can do multitasking on one device better on the Pro, it's still better to have two devices, in my opinion. So, let's talk price. I'm going to spec these the way mine are spec'd in order to get an accurate comparison as close to apples as I can for what I'm using, and I won't be including taxes or shipping because that will differ depending on where you're located, and plus taxation is theft. Anyway, First up is the MacBook Air. The baseline price is $999, which is plenty of computer for your normal everyday use, especially if you're the type of user considering using the iPad Pro as a laptop replacement. Full disclosure here, my iPad Air is spec'd slightly higher than the baseline, but I only paid the baseline price. I'll have a video coming on how I get the best deals on my Apple products, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. So anyway, we're at $999 for the MacBook Air. And now let's add the iPad Mini. Space gray because it's classic. 64 isn't going to be enough, so let's bump it up to 256. Let's add cellular because these are mobile machines. They want the mobility. No engraving. Obviously, we're going to be getting the pencil and round it out with the folio case, which comes to $987, bringing our grand total to $1,986, which I admit is heavy, but let's compare apples to apples now. The iPad Pro. Let's go with the 12.9 because that's what I have, and it's the most comparable to a 13-inch laptop. Space gray again, 256, and we'll add cellular, no engraving, add the pencil and the smart keyboard, and now we're at $1,877, which is just over $100 cheaper. But what about the Kindle my Mini was able to replace? I was using an older Kindle Paperwhite, so in the interest of fairness, let's just add the newer base model Kindle that isn't as expensive as the new Paperwhite, which comes in at $89.99. So now we're at $1,966.99 versus $1986. But let's not forget the journaling and the notebooks and the planners that I was also using. That easily, even being conservative, amounts to another $20, taking our comparison now to $1,986.99 versus $1,986. Look, obviously, this is all going to come down to your use case. If you need the heavier computing capabilities of a laptop, you probably weren't looking at an iPad Pro as a laptop replacement anyway. Or if you want the ease of only having one device to carry around and don't mind the trade-offs, you've likely already grabbed the Pro and have no complaints because it is really a great machine. But in my case, trying to use the iPad Pro as a laptop replacement essentially cost me 99 cents more than the iPad Mini and MacBook Air combo that I'm using now, and I've had a far better user experience with them than I did with just the iPad Pro. So they are definitely worth your consideration if you find yourself in a similar use case as mine, and can actually be cheaper depending on what all you're going to be replacing with those two. Anyway guys, that's going to do it for today. Check out the description of this video for some of the links to some of the things that we talked about and some things we didn't. If you found any value in this video, please leave me a kudos or two like it's my space in the early aughts, and be sure to leave any comments or suggestions you may have that can make me better both as a person and a YouTuber. Please hit the subscribe button. It really would help me out. If you're a fan of the iPad Mini like I am, be sure to check out my review, tips, tricks, and accessories that came out right here. And until next time, live free or don't.